Welcome to African Tales, Telling It Real channel. We have interesting story for you today, titled, The Price of Freedom. In a small village in Edo State, Nigeria, lived a young woman named Ifeoma, full of dreams. She wanted more for her life and her family. Life had been hard on them, and the weight of poverty made Ifeoma yearn for a way out. One day, a woman from the city arrived, promising riches and freedom in Europe. She painted a picture of a better life, a life where Ifeoma could work, send money back home, and escape the chains of poverty that held her family captive. Ifeoma, desperate to give her younger siblings a better life, agreed. She was assured that everything had been arranged, her travel, work, and accommodations. The only thing she needed to do was trust. Trust the woman who told her stories of other girls who had made it, girls who were now living in houses with lights that never went out, wearing clothes that shone like stars. With tearful goodbyes, Ifeoma boarded the bus that would take her to the city. Her mother, frail and worn from years of struggle, hugged her tightly. "Don't forget where you come from," her mother whispered, eyes filled with hope. Ifeoma held back tears and promised she would return soon, laden with gifts and good fortune. The journey to Europe was nothing like the dream she had been sold. First came the desert, endless, scorching, and unforgiving. Girls just like her fell sick from the heat, some never waking from the merciless sun. Then came the sea, a vast stretch of water that swallowed many without a trace. Ifeoma survived both, her heart clinging to the promise of a new life, though doubt was creeping in like the cold sea winds. When she finally arrived in Europe, the nightmare began. There was no job waiting for her, no house filled with lights, no freedom. Instead, she was handed over to men who took her passport and every ounce of dignity she had left. She was told she owed them thousands of euros for her travel, food, and the luxury of being in Europe. The only way to pay off this debt, they said, was by selling her body on the streets. Ifeoma wept, but tears brought no escape. Each night, she was forced to stand on cold, unfamiliar streets, stripped of the hope she once carried. Her body became a prison, her dreams shattered with every customer she was forced to endure. She was trapped in a cycle of fear and shame, too afraid to run, too ashamed to go back. Back in her village, Ifeoma's mother waited for her daughter's return, not knowing the pain she was enduring. The occasional messages Ifeoma sent were filled with lies, stories of good work and enough money to come soon. But in truth, she was broken, her soul slowly fading with every passing day. One cold winter's night, Ifeoma decided she could no longer endure the torment. She ran, but freedom wasn't easy to find. Her captors were everywhere, and even the police, who should have helped her, sometimes turned a blind eye. In the end, it was her own strength that saved her. She found refuge in an organization that helped women like her, women trafficked, broken, and lost. But Ifeoma was never the same. She returned to Nigeria years later, a shadow of the girl who once dreamed of a better life. Her family rejoiced at her return, but the light in her eyes had dimmed, replaced by the weight of her trauma. The promise of freedom had cost her everything. Ifeoma's story is not just hers, but the story of thousands of young girls lured by false promises, only to be trapped in a life far worse than the one they sought to escape. And while some survive, many do not. Her tale is a reminder of the cruel reality of human trafficking and the silent cries of those still trapped in its clutches. If you find this story inspiring, please like, share, comment, and subscribe to African Tales Telling It Real.